So I came across a recipe on TikTok where the end results look absolutely beautiful. I'm just questioning whether or not it actually tastes good. So I am here at Walmart because it only requires 2 ingredients and one of them is a freeze-dried food. First thing we need is cottage cheese. This is my favorite cottage cheese, so I'm getting the last 2 that they have. Is it okay if I grab these up here?
Yeah.
Thank you. We almost had a disaster because there are no eggs over on the egg shelf. An employee was like cleaning it. I don't know if there was an egg explosion or if they're just out of eggs. But I got the last 2 cartons of liquid egg whites. That is the next ingredient that I need. The recipe calls for powdered egg whites, which I don't know where you can buy those, but my freeze dryer can make us powdered egg whites. That's literally the only 2 ingredients that we need, well, besides water. So we're gonna get these home. I'm gonna show you how I am going to freeze dry the liquid egg whites, and we'll make our recipe when it's done. So I have no idea if this is gonna be a total flop or not, but I have other ideas to use for powdered egg whites if my recipe with the cottage cheese doesn't work out. I think that's something that would be totally useful. And using those cartons will be way easier than cracking my own. That's still, I don't think it's gonna fill my freeze dryer though. So, because they only had 2, I may make some of my own egg whites also so I can fill my trays. Here's your Alaskan snow check. It's about 9:40 in the morning and you can see the sun is starting to come up, which I love. We're past winter solstice, so that means we are gaining a few minutes of daylight every day, which is amazing. You just can't really tell right now. In like a month or 2, it'll be a lot different, but still have not received much snow at all. The day after Christmas, we got 1 measly inch of snow, enough to need to shovel the driveway, but not enough to play in, sadly. Like my overflowing trash can. Is that always you after Christmas, overflowing trash cans? Anybody else? Yeah, that's us. So that I get a bit more egg white powder, I am adding an additional 12 egg whites to be able to do a 3rd tray. And it's so much easier to just buy the liquid egg whites. Separating these, I did fine until my very last egg. I dropped the yolk inside of my jar. So whatever, I tried to get it out as good as it could and it's fine. I also am gonna freeze dry the egg yolks in my 4th tray because I'm not gonna let those go to waste, and I know there's lots of uses I could have for powdered egg yolks. So that's my plan. I'll show you how I'm gonna load them up into vanilla ice next. I am not going to use my tray liners for this. I am also not pre-freezing. I'm just going the lazy, easy way today. I'm not worried about it sticking. I'm just gonna use a bench scraper to get all of the powder out of this. Now that I have my food funnel, it's gonna make getting powders out of my trays a lot easier. I am still gonna be using my trick of pouring directly into my trays. Oh, I'm missing a tray. Where is my 3rd tray? 4th tray. Ah! Here it is. So I am just opening up my container of egg whites. And I'm going to pour it directly onto my tray. One carton fits perfectly. Slide it carefully back in. I got my next carton going in. Here's my homemade egg whites for the 3rd tray. And my last tray, I am going in with the egg yolks. I closed my drain valve, and so now we're just hitting continue. And we're freezing. Vanilla ice is gonna do its thing. It's gonna go through the full freezing process, and then the vacuum pump kicks on, and then it dries out the food, and we will end up with a beautiful egg powder. Step 1 in my crazy TikTok recipe is being worked on. Once it's done, I will show you what I'm gonna make. Literally, 2 ingredients. 1 ingredient is water. Is that even an ingredient? I mean, it is, but that's our free ingredient. We're gonna use the egg white powder, cottage cheese, and water, and it's gonna become something crazy. I can't wait. So I will see you all tomorrow. I'm hoping this doesn't take too long. I'm letting the machine do all the work. I didn't do any pre-freezing, so I'm sure it'll be over 24 hours, but hopefully tomorrow. I'll keep y'all updated. Vanilla ice has been running for 24 hours and 43 minutes exactly. Our egg white powder is done and it's time to take it out. Here is how it looks. The egg white powder is definitely like powdery, kind of crispy feeling. When I come over to the egg yolks, it's a lot more smooth and like velvety feeling. Definitely a different texture, but I'm sure that's because of the high fat content that is in egg yolks versus the egg whites. For my recipe, I need an entire cup of egg white powder. So for storage wise, I don't know if I'm gonna have much left over for like long-term storage on my shelves. I'm just gonna use my food funnel and this bucket here. This is from the Costco Business Center. And I'm gonna put all my egg white powder into here and use what I need for my recipe, and then probably just vacuum jar seal up the leftovers. And the egg yolk powder, I'm not making anything with that in today's video. If you have any suggestions for me on what to do with the egg yolk powder, let me know in the comments. That would be very helpful. But I think I'm just gonna put those into a Mylar bag and store them just for future use. Are you ready to hear the secret recipe that I am making? It is called a cloud bread, which is essentially a high protein, low carb, fluffy bread. I don't know if it's actually considered a bread because it's not made with like flour or any gluten. It's gonna be cottage cheese, egg whites, and water, but it puffs up into a beautiful looking loaf. But I am just worried about how the taste and texture is gonna be. So we're gonna find out together. But this is great for anyone who is on a keto diet, a high protein diet, anyone who's just looking to get more protein. And that's my goal for the next year, diet-wise. I don't like doing like diets per se, but I am trying to eat more protein. So if this is good, this is gonna be a go-to recipe for me. This was more than I expected. This was 3 trays worth. Well, 1 tray was probably only like a third of the way full. 2 of them were pretty full, but I am really happy with how much egg white powder I got. Definitely have plenty for my recipe and more. This is cool. It looks like sand. I feel like my kids would enjoy putting their hands in this and just like playing with it. For my last tray, I'm just throwing a Mylar bag underneath. Gonna do the same thing, fill it with the egg yolks. And, oh, I need to raise this. I love the food funnel because it's adjustable and you can fit any size bag. I got this from freezedryersupplies.com and I do have a link in my video description if this is something you're interested in. 100,000% recommend. It's so easy for packaging up your freeze-dried food without making a huge mess. If you do the egg yolks, I definitely would suggest using a tray liner. That was just pretty stuck to the pan. It's just a different consistency. I hope it's still like, it's fine. You know, sometimes high fatty foods aren't great freeze-dried, but I mean, they're definitely dry. They're just a different texture. I'm just throwing in 2 oxygen absorbers in here, squeezing out this air. I'll heat seal the top shut and then I'm just gonna stick this on the shelf and figure out what to do with it at a later date. And don't let me forget to write what's in here. I always forget to label my bags and then I have mystery bags of food. But I don't have my Sharpie by me. I'll figure it out. Before I head upstairs, I wanna thank you all for sending me Christmas cards. You filled up my wall so beautifully. These just made me so happy. I can't take them down yet. We'll see how long I leave them up for, but they bring me joy. I don't want to take them down yet. When do you guys take down your Christmas stuff? We've been slowly taking stuff down, but our tree is still up. Our lights are still up. However, in Alaska, people leave their Christmas lights on through like March. It is so dark here that the lights on the houses just bring happiness and joy when you're driving around at night and just, you know, some light. It's nice to see light when it's so dark. The tradition is that when the last racer of the Iditarod dog mushing race, when the last finisher crosses the finish line, that's when you're allowed to take your Christmas lights down. So that's usually sometime in February, I believe. So we'll see how long ours stay up. We did not put up many lights, but we just have one little strand out there and it brings us some joy. Next, I will meet you all up in my kitchen. I've got an appointment to run to, but when we get back, we are gonna make our cloud bread. This is gonna be the easiest thing ever, but I hope the most delicious thing ever also. This is a very easy recipe. 1 cup of cottage cheese, but blended up. 1 cup of egg white powder and 1 cup of water. So I'm gonna start by blending up my cottage cheese. So this is how my dough looks. I've never made something like this before. He says to grease and line your bread pan with parchment paper. I'm gonna do that. And then I'm baking it at 350 for 30 to 35 minutes. So I got this oil sprayer on Amazon, very cheap, and works so well. You can put any type of oil you like in here, and you can either use it to pour, or you can use it as a sprayer for like sprayed oil, which is awesome. I will have it linked down below. Is there any way that this is gonna be good? We will find out in 30 minutes. Wow. Okay, I think I got it out. It definitely stuck on the sides that weren't near the parchment paper, but holy cow. I mean, this is very bouncy. I wanna let it cool for a little while and then we're gonna dig into it. That didn't last long. I can't wait, I have to try this. So I'm just gonna dive into it. I mean, it is just so squishy and interesting feeling. I don't know if you're supposed to put anything on this, but we're just gonna try it raw. So you can kind of see that texture, kind of like that moist cottage cheese is what's causing that. It reminds me sort of like a souffle type of texture. It doesn't give me bread vibes. The crust does, but I am pleasantly surprised. Sorry about my kids. I feel like this would be really good with like a strawberry or raspberry jam on it. I think that would just like put it over the edge as a delicious little, you could still get the sweetness from the berries and then just the more like protein, eggy, cheesy side from the bread. That would be good. So I am pleasantly surprised with this. It's not quite what I expected, but it's not worse than I expected either. It's an awesome option for people, like I said, who are eating a high protein, low carb diet. Would they do this 100% with some strawberries or berries on it? Would be so good. It's so good on its own. It's just different. But 2 ingredients plus water. You can't go wrong. Now, could you make this with just liquid egg whites and the cottage cheese? Probably. But the dude's recipe said egg white powder, and I wanted to challenge myself to make the egg white powder. I just need to go package this up in a mason jar. I'm gonna vacuum seal it, but I'm gonna do that a little bit later because we've got some plans tonight to get to. As always, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a fabulous new year. When this video airs, it will be January 1st, 2025. I'm always terrible about remembering to write the proper date. I literally have been writing 2023 on things still, so that's embarrassing. If you want to join me for all of the freeze drying fun that we're gonna have here in 2025, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Remember, when you freeze dry today, you secure your tomorrow. If you need a freeze dryer, remember I always have a link to Harvest Right in my video description below. You can always shop for them there. And I will catch you all on the next video. Goodbye, my friends.